Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Oh, my goodness. What a week. We are already 3 weeks in to April, and I cannot believe it because what has happened. I feel like this month so far has been such a time warp. Hello, everybody. I think it took me a second to actually go live. So it's just now showing me that there are people here. Hi. Hey, everybody. Oh, it's just it warms my heart to see the same names. I just love you guys. I miss you when I can't be here. Thank you for understanding. Last week, I was like, no, I don't want to cancel another one. But Andrew got a honor roll, which is his first time ever doing that because he was in like Montessori schools and things like that for most of his life, and they didn't do honor roll like regular grades. And then so far this year in school, he's been AB honor roll. So this is his first time he got all A's, and I was like, oh, I really want to be there for him. So it was, of course, right during the coffee chat. So we will see how it goes for next week, because next week will be a first in my married life, which kind of sounds funny because we've been married for 13 years and really together, living together for 16 years. But George is chaperoning a field trip retreat thing for Andrew's class. So they're going away to like a camp thing for 4 days. And George is chaperoning. And so Evie and I will be home alone Tuesday through Friday. And you know, it's going to be interesting because I have never been home alone in my whole relationship since I got married. I have gone out to hotels. I have gone to stay with family, gone to stay with friends, gone to writing retreats. We've gone to Airbnbs, but this is the first time that I've ever spent the night at my own house alone since I got married, which is so weird and strange. And I won't be fully alone. I'll be with Evie. Obviously, but we may go and do some fun stuff. We may hang out with the neighbors a little bit. We'll see how it goes. I don't know, but they will not be home until after the coffee chat on Friday. And so I'll let you guys know how it's going. If I feel like Evie is doing a really good job and she's handling things on her own, then I will, have her. Renee was like, you could just put her on the couch in the back, because hopefully next week we'll be moving into my other room since that's almost finished. I say almost, but it's getting there. But yeah, it will be kind of funny. Yeah, isn't that funny? It's like when you're home alone, when you both work from home and you don't have a husband who travels, like I have two friends whose husbands travel all the time. And I'm just like, my husband never goes anywhere. he's always home. So that'll be fun and it'll be weird. And it's only for a few days. So we'll see how it goes. I think I'm going to take her to the zoo, and when I'm home all day with her now, George is also home with her all day, and Andrew's at school. I'm not drinking a beer, I promise. I'm drinking Topo Chico. I realize when it's like this, it looks looked like an adult beverage. But anyway, it'll be an interesting thing to have, like, to be just 100% having to keep her occupied in a way, because she has different boundaries with me than she does with George. Because George will say, no, you play independently for a little while. Daddy has to work. And she's like, okay. I say that. And she's like, but mommy, and then she's still climbing on me. So I just don't set those boundaries the same way with her. So it'll be an interesting week, and it might be that I get absolutely nothing done next week except hanging out with her. I am drinking, it's a Topo Chico, which is a product of Mexico, Monterrey, Mexico. If you've never had this, it's really, really good. It's just a sparkling water with lime in it, and it's delicious. I don't think I had ever had one until we went to one of the Airbnbs that we went to last year in Florida had these as a treat, like a basket with snacks and these. And then now that we're in Texas, they're everywhere. So it's delicious. And there's no sugar or calories or anything in it. It's just like sparkling water with lime. So, oh no, Timoana, your husband is gone again unexpectedly. Is he retiring? Like, do you have one more? You can talk to me about it later, but I'm like, that's going to change things for sure. Kids do act differently with their mom versus their dad. I totally agree with that. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun. We are also car shopping. So this will be interesting. So what we have only had one car since we lived in Columbia, South Carolina, because we were leasing a car. And then when we moved to Charleston, we turned in that lease and we just had one car. And then because we really didn't need a second car, we just didn't get one for a while. Then we bought like a Jeep for like, I don't know, a couple $1,000s. It was like a really old Jeep that I used so that I could go on riding retreats instead of having to like rent a car. I could go. And then we sold that. And for years, we've just had one car. We went moving, on the road and stuff with the Airbnbs, and we weren't going to have two cars. So it saves a lot of money to only have one car if you can do it. But it's getting to a point where it's detrimental, where it's like the kids are getting so active. Andrew's in baseball, Evie's doing gymnastics. They're both going to be in swim lessons this summer and other things like that, that it's getting harder to just have one car. Because if the car is out with Andrew at baseball practice, I can't go see a friend, or I can't go to a coffee shop, or I can't go get groceries, and other things like that. So we are getting a second car. But yes, so I saw some people say we're car shopping too. It is stressful. And it's like, there are so many choices out there. There's so many different cars. And it is taking up my brain, and I don't want it to take up my brain. I want to be focused on my book, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But I have been spending a lot of my downtime in the evenings when I'm not working or thinking about other things. I have been thinking about what kind of car. So if anybody has a car that you love, that gets really good gas mileage. So right now we have an SUV, but I don't think we want to get a second SUV because that seems like kind of ridiculous. Not judging anyone who does have that, because sometimes you have to have two. Like my friend, I have a friend who has 5 kids. It's like both of their cars have to be SUVs or vans, because there's just no other option, right? But because like me sitting here with 0 cars, yeah, well, listen, cars are expensive and there's a lot of maintenance. So we would do an electric car. And I have looked at the Nissan, and that it looks really nice. There are a lot of hybrid cars and electric cars out there that would be really nice, but then they're also really expensive too. So yeah, if you have anything, put it in the chat. If you have something that you have really loved. Chevy Equinox, and I love it. Good for a family of 4. We used to have a Ford Escape too. That was the car we were leasing back in Charleston. Prius. So yeah, does a Prius have 4 doors or only 2? I need to look. Mazda CX-5. Is that kind of an SUV kind of car too, or like a midsize? Honda Civic. That is something we've looked at too. I haven't even looked at Subarus, so that'll be interesting. I am not sure if what we saw was a Toyota Camry or Toyota Corolla, because they're kind of similar, right? But one is like more of a midsize and one is a more compact. I'm not sure. But we saw one at church the other night, and I was like, that's a nice looking car. Because I feel like as we're driving through, I'm like, what about this car? What about that car? Because my brain is like stuck on it, right? Yeah, so there's a lot of really nice cars. Yeah, if we got an electric car, we could pretty much, like, for the most part, that car could just never, or a hybrid, one of the plug-in hybrids or whatever, we would probably never have to use gas at all, which would be really cool, or just electric car. Obviously, you wouldn't need gas. My good friend Jen, who's here sometimes, JD, they have an electric car and she loves it. But then you do have to charge it, so then you have to plan ahead if you're taking it on longer trips. So, oh, lots of people have Prius. This is interesting. So Prius is a four-door. Okay, well, maybe I need to look into that. BMW might be out of my price range, Salome. I'm not sure. So yeah, the Camrys and the Corollas look really nice too. So a lot of nice options. So most of my cars have been Hyundais, and I really love Hyundai. I was unsure about it when I bought my first Hyundai Sonata. I didn't know if I would like it because it was years and years ago and it wasn't as established of a car brand as it is now. And I was trying to buy a car outright with cash, like a used car. So I had a very strict budget, and they were like, I wanted to get a Honda, like a Honda Civic or a Honda Accord or something. I forget what I was looking at. And they just wouldn't come down on price. And they were like, what about this Hyundai? And I was like, but I got it and I drove it for 8 years or something, 9 years. And I loved that car. So then we got a Hyundai Elantra, which I also really liked. That's the car that we sold and upgraded when we went on the road with the Airbnb, and we bought a Hyundai Palisade. And I love that car. The Hyundai Palisade, if anybody's looking for a 3-row SUV, highly, highly recommend it. It has been my favorite car I've ever had. But there's a lot of things like this. A lot of cars that I love right now. So seen used BMW plug-in hybrid SUV for 25 grand. Yeah, that sounds nice. Whew, cars are so expensive right now. All right. So anyway, car discussion. So what I have been working on over the past few weeks, I've talked about this obviously, but then we missed last week. So I didn't really get to go into it as much, but I do have a new video that'll be going up on my channel later this afternoon or evening about my writer reset. And I have been working on resetting my joy for writing. And there's one thing in particular that I wanted to talk about. And, sometimes I'm like, I need to stop talking about like how other people criticize me because I don't want it to come off as complaining. But I also feel like it's a teachable moment, so to speak, because sometimes I think that we hear this message. So I'm going to just kind of stand on a soapbox here for a minute. We hear this message all the time about like when it comes to being creative, when it comes to being productive, when it comes to doing anything that you're supposed to be doing in your life, like should be doing. We hear this message over and over again about like, you need to be disciplined, you have to be focused, you need to be productive. And we often tie our worth to how productive are we being? How quick are we meeting these deadlines? And especially as writers, right now in this day and age, like it didn't used to be this way. And for a lot of trad pub authors, it's not this way, but I think they're feeling the crunch too. And if any trad pub authors are here, feel free to let me know if that's true, that it's so focused on the release date, the schedule, how do you ship things? How do you get things fast enough? Right. And I think that it's helpful in some ways to say, like I thought it was funny back in the day when I went to an RWA conference and Nora Roberts gave a 2-hour Q&A or something like that. And somebody was like, but how do you write when you don't feel like it or whatever? And she's like, screw the muse, sit down in the, butt in the chair and get your writing done. And I was like, yeah, that's such good advice. And I love Nora Roberts. But as I have continued on over the past few years, maybe just the last couple of years have been particularly stressful. I also have started to come to realize that there is a time when put your butt in the chair and just get the writing done is good advice. And there's other times where it's toxic advice. Because if we're creating something, if we're here to really pour our heart and soul into something and we want it to be magnetic and magical and we want it to feel good and to be in flow, like my writing has never been as beautiful or joyful as it has been when I have had exciting ideas. Like writing Sacrifice Me, for example, was just the most fun. Writing Beautiful Demons was so much fun. Writing The Witch's Key, these things that just flowed out of me were so much fun, and they were some of my best books. And every book that has come needs to hit a point where the words flow. And I've never been able to finish a book ever where I didn't have some moments where it's like the words are flowing. And so often we're preached this idea of, it doesn't matter if you wait for inspiration, you're never going to write. If you don't sit down and be disciplined, if you don't write X amount of words per day, or if you don't do it exactly like this, if you don't plot, if you don't, and we're told all these things that really and truly should be individual choices, and not even just your individual choice for the rest of your life, but does this match the season of life you're in? Because sometimes I think we can kind of flit around and we're just like never feeling disciplined. And there's times where that advice of like, you just need to sit down and finish the dang book is really good advice. But then there's other times where it's like, you need to get reconnected with who you truly are and why you're doing this. However that happens, you need to find the joy in this process. And it's not about hustle. It's not about forcing. It's not about discipline. It's more about joy, right? And I think that it really depends on so many factors. It depends on the season you're in. It depends on your personality. It depends on where you are in the writing process. It depends on so many different things. And there's so many comments coming by. I can't I can't see them. Yeah. So when you're writing and publishing but not making money, and your family says you should just get a real job, or when people say, you shouldn't write what you love, you should write what's going to make money. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of good advice to a degree. If you want to make a living out of this, that you should try to make stories that people want to buy. And there are things that you can do to write stories that are more marketable than others, writing to market, writing to tropes, like understanding what people, what readers actually want. Like if you have this crazy idea that's a mix up of 10 different genres, and it's the first book is going to be when they're babies and the next book's going to be when they're aliens in outer space. It's like, okay, well, that might not sell because nobody's ever written anything like that before. But at the same time, there are seasons in our lives where we literally just need to get back to the joy of it. And part of the frustrating thing about that is you have to find a balance between, I want to get back to joy, but I also want to finish the book and sit down and get it done. And when you're in this vulnerable, like coming back to joy space, you can also get tangled up in your own doubts, I think. And sometimes you can sabotage yourself. And so that's kind of where I am in this space right now with Writer Reset. And that's what I've been thinking about and doing for this month, is focused on how can I play in my writing again? How can I have fun with it? How can I make it, joyful and pleasurable? And I was listening to a motivation masterclass from Manifestation Babe this past week, that she said the key to making your dreams come true is, and actually getting motivation to do it, is not to force yourself necessarily, but it's this combination. I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's this combination of your vision, meaning it's something that feels good to have done. So it's your long-term vision. And for those of you that have been around Heart Breathings and Sarra Cannon stuff for a long time, vision is really important to me. And so it's that vision, that long-term, like this will feel good once it's done and I'll be proud of it, combined with doing things in the present, like taking the action now to get to that future. But in order to motivate yourself to take that action, it needs to be pleasurable. It needs to feel good in some way, or it needs to be something that you enjoy or something that you desire or whatever. And I think that this is a place where hustle culture, for lack of a better word, sometimes misses out is, you have that long-term vision, you find the sustainability of small achievable tasks, and this is what we do in HB90. But also, I think part of why the Kanban boards and the washi tapes and the pretty colors in my office and different things like that work so well for me, just like, I've got planners and other things that I love, is because it makes it pleasurable. And sometimes I think we just don't allow ourselves to feel the joy and the pleasure of creating, because there's so much weight about, can I make money at this? Is this what readers are going to want? Is this going to be the right thing? Am I going to get canceled because of something I say on accident? And all of those types of things are, will come up. And I think that right now, my season of life is, I am so ready to be back into a place of joy and excitement for the writing. And I'm doing kind of whatever the heck it takes to get there. And if if my way of resetting doesn't resonate with you, there's no problem with that. Like, I'm not putting this stuff out there to make it where I want everyone to do exactly the same thing of me. But my point of it is, if you also feel like you've been needing some way to reset your joy, just do what makes you happy. What makes you happy and what makes you feel inspired may be something totally different than what makes me feel inspired. But there also could be a trap. Hey, Diane, there can be a trap of resetting your whole life and never getting the work done. Never actually sitting down to do the work. And that is a problem too. So it's a lot of little things. So a little Teresa reset an entire life. Yeah. So I'm also doing 6 months for life at the same time. And I find that when I really start, I was just talking to Renee about this in our meeting this morning, that when it comes to getting Publish and Thrive done or whatever, there were like all these things to do. And I can get into focus mode of like, okay, sit down, get the work done, hustle, hustle, hustle. Like, and it was a joyful process because I loved the stuff I was doing. I loved the Q&As and all of that, but because it was so busy and it was very clear directive of like, here's exactly what needs to get done. I have a checklist. I have a Kanban board. It's very clear. It was, I won't say easy because it wasn't easy, but it was self-motivating to a degree. It's like, okay, I know exactly what step to take next. And it's very easy every morning to get into focus and just get into delivery mode, like get it done. But now that is done and I have this sort of space that I've created for myself to be creative, that's sort of also when the emotional side starts to come in of like, am I on the right path in my life? Like the big picture questions. So instead of being focused on those little things of like, okay, I got to get these 3 videos done today, I'm sitting there going, what's the meaning of life kind of things. And so that emotional side is kind of playing in. And I've got some things that I'm toying with and I'm thinking about. And one of them is, even, do I want to still be writing YA? So I have a question for those of you that are here. So we've got over 200 people here, which is awesome. I keep a 5-year journal, and just a couple of years ago, I was talking about a coffee chat and I was like, oh my gosh, there were 80 people there and how exciting. And it's like, wow, we have 200. And I will give an extra shout out to our like 2,000 people that come and watch this throughout the week. So I love you guys too, even if you're not here live and you're here on the replay. So shout out to all our replay coven. But how many, just out of curiosity, how many of you read a lot of YA? Indie YA, trad pub YA, a lot of YA. Because I feel like, so I have in the past read a lot of YA, young adult fiction, mostly paranormal fiction. And then now I have been reading kind of 2 genres besides YA. I have been reading a lot of standalone sort of psychological thrillers. That's one of my favorite genres. And then the other one is adult fantasy. And George, in all of his wisdom, has said for a long time that he thinks my writing naturally in Shadow Demons has moved up to more like moving more toward adult fantasy, even though it's still YA coming of age kind of tone. He's like, I really think you should write this. And there is a part of me that's like, maybe I do want to write more adult fantasy. Something that I've found a lot to be true in YA. This is really interesting too, by the way. I am reading it. Is a lot of YA these days has a lot of sex in it. And I don't really enjoy writing those types of scenes a lot, especially with my YA characters. And so there's a part of me that's like, do I still have a space in this genre? But writing adult is not going to make it easier. It's not going to make that question easier. But I have always kind of felt like some of the popularity of my own young adult books comes from, or some of the loss of popularity. Why my books have not been as popular as some other of my contemporary or whatever, my comp authors, people who are like me, wait, no, I lost train of thought. In the past, I feel like a lot of the authors that were in the same space as me in indie in the early days that got more popular books than I did is because their books were more heavily romance, whereas mine are more like there's a romance in them, but they're not romances. Like you could take the romance away and still have Harper's Journey, right? But I prefer that as a writer. So I saw Angela say, my friend Sarah says, write what you love. So I feel like particularly in indie these days, a lot of indie young adult has a lot of sex in it. And so writing adult in romance would have more of those scenes, but I don't find that adult fantasy, like epic fantasy, has a lot of sex scenes in it. Not what I've read, like Brandon Sanderson's books and stuff like that. Not that I plan to be like Brandon Sanderson, but just if you look at fantasy romance, that of course does. But I feel like in YA, there used to be more of a line and there's not as much anymore. So it's just kind of like, I'm just not 100% certain where I fit and where I really want to be writing once I have finished these next few books. Of course, it's kind of like, why am I worried about that when I literally have so many books to read right now or to write right now that are like that? And there is a part of me too that has been wondering about book 12 of my series. So I have not had, so if just since we're speaking of, spicy scenes, I'll just say spicy. My Sacrifice Me series has some spicy scenes in it, but my young adult series does not have any. Like all of Shadow Demons, there are moments of tension, but there's no sex in those books. But I have wondered about whether there should be a scene in book 12 because there's going to be some things, it's like wrapping things up. But I think what I've decided to do is that if I choose to write a spicy scene for that book, since I have not had any spicy scenes in that series, I would leave it out of the book, but have it be something that people could read on my website or something, or sign up for my newsletter to get. So, thank you. Savannah says, I think you would do amazing in any genre because you love your characters and your stories. I think follow your gut. I don't care so much for the sex scenes in books, TVs, or movies. Your audience follows you because they like the way you write. Thank you for that. If you have any current, young adult indie authors that write paranormal similar to my Shadow Demon saga that you love, can you please, please, please let me know who they are? Because I would love some more indie writers to read just to get kind of back into the genre. This is actually a good question. Michelle says, not a writer, but do you have to have a particular genre? And yes, you really do. And this is part of where the write what you love comes into the marketing side of things, is really and truly, it's so important to have a specific sort of brand and a specific genre that you write. And it doesn't mean that you can't branch out from that. It's like, even if you just look right here, I've got like zombies, zero any kind of paranormal element, new adult contemporary romance. And then I have, and in those, those are new adult. And in the first book does not have any sexy scenes in it, but the rest of them do. And it felt natural for that series. Witch is Key and Beautiful Demons are kind of more the same. But it is really nice and important to have something that is like all of your books are kind of in the same genre. And you can branch out, but it's very difficult to market your books when it's like, well, one series is, mystery thriller, and this other series is young adult paranormal, and this other series is adult epic fantasy. Like, for the most part, that is really, really hard to get off the ground unless you're using multiple pen names. So, okay, now, Renee, are you here? Is Renee here? If not, I know Angela's here. Can you guys write down some of these names? Because I really want to read George and his infinite wisdom. Nothing wrong with eye candy scene, but if your readers aren't used to them, it'll just feel gratuitous. Yeah. Well, if I were going to put a scene like that in my book 12, it would not be gratuitous. It would be because these two characters need it for their growth. But I also don't want readers to feel kind of like, oh, wait, that isn't what I was expecting from these books. Or I also have kids that are like 12 and 13 that read these series too. So of course, now if they were reading them, it's been 3 years, so now they're 15. So it's all good. So Lana says, just because there are sex scenes in YA books, it doesn't mean that young adults won't read a great book without sex scenes. That is also very true. However, most of the people who read my books are not teens. Most of them are adults. And I think that's why in indie in particular, you see a lot of sex scenes coming into YA. So yeah, and genre tropes do come in and out of popularity, but sometimes I feel like when the high spice takes over, it never leaves in terms of being the number one best-selling thing. But I think there's also, it's worth it to be said that like you don't always have to try to be the number one best-selling thing. You can just be really good at the thing you love. And I just am trying to decide exactly what that is for me. I have a couple of series ideas. I shouldn't say I'm trying to decide, because right now I'm not in a decision place. It's just I'm in that sort of overall daydreaming place for my life. And so some of it has come up of like, but what do I want to do in the future? Because obviously I have multiple books that I am committed to finishing. But it's just that sort of daydreaming. And I don't know, there's a lot of possibilities. And I don't know. I'm thinking about it. So some of you said, I read none, no YA. So I'm assuming you have not read my books, for those of you that said that. So what, if you don't read YA at all and you haven't read my books, then what type of stuff do you read? Just out of curiosity. Yeah, the sexy stuff seems to be in everything, especially in indie. I haven't seen it in horror novels, but it's probably coming. It's probably coming. So yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I don't deny anyone their sexy scenes in YA, but I just don't always feel like it's appropriate for my characters, I guess is the best way to say it. Adult science fiction, thrillers, paranormal, magical realism. So give me an example of magical realism, just out of curiosity. I know what it is, but I just want to hear some of your examples, because I don't think I've read very much of it. You're the only YA writer I read. I found you through Heart Beatings. Mostly read adult romance, science fiction, and fantasy. I kind of wonder if a lot of my fans read a lot of urban fantasy, sci-fi, and things that are not YA. I have a feeling. Um, Barbara says, I do read YA, but also epic fantasy, urban fantasy, paranormal romance, romantic fantasy, dark fantasy, horror, lit fic, lots of genres. And Barbara, do you find that you just out of, just because I'm questioning you guys today, do you find, if you don't mind sharing, that you are willing to read in all of those genres, whether it has spicy scenes or not, or do you just purely go for more of the spicy romance, like in preference? Um, just have Sarah Addison Allen is magical realism. Oh, and there's a couple more. Yeah, and it could be intuition speaking. And something that happens quite often is I'll start writing down a new idea or something, and George will be like, well, there's an anime that has a very similar thing. And he's like, you basically write anime, you just don't know it yet. And that is true, that a lot of my stuff is very similar in some of the tone to it, as a lot of anime that we've watched. And so often when I am watching anime, I get really inspired for what's coming next. So it's just kind of interesting to hear that. But it's like, how do you market books that are like anime that are not manga? I don't know. It's a question for the future. But so speaking about books, I am currently, George is home. I'm currently working on The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw. And this will be still a deviation in a way from the other things that I've written. So when I say that it is often best to write one single genre, do as I say, not as I do, or just do what you want and don't worry about it. Because this is it's a psychological thriller. Basically, it's like an unreliable narrator to a degree, but it's a supernatural thriller, and it's really fun. And I am very close. I'm very close to finishing the rough draft of it, but I printed out, and I'll share this in the vlog that's coming up, that's quite long because apparently I can't do short videos anymore right now. I have printed it out and I have been reading through it, and it's in very rough shape. So even though I have I'm very close to finishing the rough draft, like I might finish it by the end of this month, it's going to need a lot of edits. However, I will let you guys know. Oh, that was not to me. Somebody said, these are going by so fast. This is the book I'm waiting to read, so please hurry up and give us a tease bit. I know I need to get on it, and I'm feeling more and more inspired. And there's a few things that are really exciting to me about the writer reset, because I've been focusing on the joy and the fun, kind of bringing the little girl side of me back, of like, new pens, or new new pencil case, or just little things like that, resetting my room and sort of playing with my stationery, setting up my pens, printing it out. And I'm also somebody who is, and for those of you that are writers, let me know in the comments if you're the same, because there's like a perpetual student in me. I am such a learner, and I really love and always have, sitting down and taking notes about stuff and learning and taking courses. And I love it so much. And like being able to have my highlighters and everything else out. It's so nerdy, but I just love it. Thank you, Michelle. Me. I'm like, I know I'm not the only one here. I just love it so much. And so bringing back that sort of like little girl Sarah, teenage Sarah, that would have loved to have had, all these colorful pens and supplies and other things like that. And so I'm getting back to that. So I went to a coffee shop this week. I spent a lot of time just highlighting in the books I was reading. I'm still reading through The Heroine's Journey, and it's so good. And as like, I will give a full review of this book later, but the heroine's journey, if you have not picked it up and you're a writer, is so good because I never have heard my whole life until I think it was Rhiannon mentioned this book, that there was a heroine's journey that was structurally different from the hero's journey. And as I was reading this book for the first time, I was like, this is what I write. Oh my gosh. And it's so, so good. And it's just the gist, like very overarching idea of it is the hero's journey. And this is like just a teeniest part of it. The hero's journey is about a hero who increasingly becomes more and more isolated. And through his isolation, it can be him or her. It doesn't have to do with gender. But or it can be they, it could be anyone. But it's this idea of the hero of the story becomes increasingly more isolated. And through that isolation, they develop the inner strength that they need to defeat the bad guy kind of thing. But with the heroine's journey, which again, doesn't have to be a female character, can be anyone, follows more of an increasingly more and more connected and networked person. So it's much more about themes like found family and finding your strength by asking for help and being able to like open your heart to those around you. So it's more like a Harry Potter type story instead of a Star Wars, it's just, oh my gosh, it's so, so good. And yeah, maybe this will be the first book in the book club. We will see. So Harley says number 4 learner. So I'm futuristic, strategic, achiever, and then I'm number 4 learner as well. I'm pretty sure, but you know what? I think I might be number 3 learner. I need to go back and look because I always forget the order exactly. But yes, it's such a great book. Yes, Alex, if that's what you write, you need to read this book because there are structural differences. And so sometimes if intuitively, when you've been writing, you found that, well, this hero's journey stuff or the Act 3 stuff doesn't exactly fit where I'm trying to go and you just follow your own things, it's probably because you're writing the heroine's journey. And it's just, oh my gosh. So the archetype test about like number 4 learner and stuff like that. Barbara, number 4 learner too. It is called the Strengths Finder, or I think they call it now the Gallup Strengths or Clifton Strengths is what it's called now. So if you just Google Clifton Strengths, you will find the test, but I think you have to pay for it. But I don't think it was that expensive, but there is a brilliant, writer in our community and teacher called Becca Syme, Becca, and then her last name is Syme. And she has a YouTube channel as well that is called The Quick Cast, I think. And she is trained and like one of the smartest people I know. And she teaches people and writers about how to take their strengths and work in their best way. And thank you for putting her name up here. So it's Becca Syme, Gallup and Clifton Strengths. She's a certified strengths coach, but she specifically works with authors and her work is just incredible. And yes, it is the Gail and I always don't know how to say her last name. So Gail Carriger book. And she self-published that book, by the way. And also another brilliant person in the world, just incredible. So it's $20 to get your top 10, $40 for all 34. And it is really, really interesting to know what your strengths are. And SM Maple said there is a free alternative if you Google for it. It's just so cool. But anyway, I've been diving into that and like setting up a new plotting wall, putting my, writing my notes and other things like that. And something that I found as I was reading back through is, it's such an interesting thing. It's like, even after writing so many different heroines, it's like this heroine, Lorelei, she just has her own way about her and her own voice and her own things. And it's kind of so cool. I've talked about this before, but it's so much fun because it's like, who is this person and how did she come out of my brain? Because she's definitely not me, but she's not Harper or Parrish either. She's her own person. And it's just really neat how those characters come onto the page without, like, I know some people do extensive like character bios and stuff like that. And I never do that. I just sort of let my characters talk on screen, so to speak, on the page. And they just kind of come out however they come out. And she is a really fun character. And I think you guys will like her, though she she is in a dark place. We'll just put that. Um, so anyway, I think you guys will like Lorelai, and even though Vanessa has disappeared in the present day, you will see flashbacks of Vanessa, but she's a less lovable character in some ways. So I'm excited. One of the things that I'm struggling with this book is that there are so many points of view, and there's also multiple timelines. And so I've got to make sure that it's not confusing. So I probably, for those of you that are interested in reading, I probably will be asking for more beta readers this time around than just my regular 3, really 4. But I probably will have a few other people read it just to make sure that you understand who the characters are, that you don't get confused, that it's easy to tell whose voice it is or what timeline you're on, because it's told in alternating timelines of the present day, where all of the people that were there the night Vanessa disappeared are coming back to kind of honor her memory and to celebrate their graduation from high school. And then you also have the past timeline that is the months, the summer leading up to the night Vanessa disappeared. And the way that if I can pull it off, if I can find my mind, if I can get my brain to a brilliant place, then the intention is, of course, that as they're going through the present day timeline trying to solve the mystery of what happened to Vanessa, there will also be reveals happening in the past that you'll kind of find out as you go. So it's going to be interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of interest in being a beta reader. So I will definitely ask for some help when that comes up, because I'm going to need it for sure. And hopefully you guys will love it. So that is something I've been working on, and I'm hoping I can finish the rough draft this month. I will be, if you are a writer and you want to come join us, I saw Angela asked, are you wearing that shirt for a reason? We are having our virtual writing retreat, which we do once a quarter in our Heart Breathings writing community. And so we're doing writing sprints all day. There's none going on right now, but as soon as I'm done, Tracy will be doing a 2.5-hour live stream from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And then I will take over from 9 to 11 for night owl sprints. And I will not be over there in my actual, on my Heart Breathings channel in public, just because it would be a bigger group. And I like kind of our smaller actual Heart Breathings writing community people. I mean, not that I want to exclude anyone, but just it's nicer when it's a smaller group so we can chat. So if you want to join that, you can just go to heartbreathings.com and click on the Heart Breathings writing community. And there's a Google calendar there that will have all the links and stuff. And we're virtually in Dallas this year. It's like a virtual writing retreat, but our virtual pretend location is Dallas, because we're all trying to hope and cross fingers that we're going to have an actual live event here in Dallas next year. And in fact, next month, I already have some hotels booked that I will be going to tour and taste the food and everything else and see if I can find a great place. Oh, Mason's here. If jet lag stops kicking my backside, I'll be there. So if you didn't know, Mason just flew all the way to Boston across the ocean to run the Boston Marathon. Congratulations. Like, that is no easy feat. And the fact, like, I was following your journey, the fact that you were delayed and got there later than you expected and still managed to run such a great marathon is incredible. So definitely, like, hats off to you. That is such a hard thing to do. And I am just really, really in awe of you. I think that's really, really cool. So what time zone is it in? So I'm in Central time zone, but all the times I just gave are Eastern time zone. So, like right now it's almost 5 p.m. Eastern time zone, if that helps. The gate is open for cows. So our neighbor, once again, is bringing the cows over. They're going to eat all my bluebonnets. I'm excited. But there are potential. So yes, there's probably going to be a live event here for writers next year, but I'm also considering, and so you guys will have to let me know if you're interested in doing what might be a smaller live event for the release of book 12 of the Shadow Demon Saga. It would be somewhere here in the United States, and it would probably be a weekend event or even just one overnight event. And I don't even know how many people would want to come, but it could be a book signing. You'd get some swag and some other things, and just basically just get to hang out with fellow fans of the books and stuff like that. So I've been thinking about that as well. So if that's something you would be interested in, let me know. It might be cool to do it like in Georgia somewhere, since the majority of the series is set in Georgia. So maybe like in Atlanta, or Savannah or something. Oh, Savannah would be fun, but it would be harder to get to an airport there. But you never know, something kind of fun and cool. So can you send the neighbors to eat my bluebonnets? So the whole front lawn is still all bluebonnets and whatever the pink flowers are, and yellow weeds like daisies or something there. But then the whole back, like acres, are just, it's just like a carpet of grass and flowers, and they're gonna do it. HarperCon, I love it, Casey. That would be so fun. I just think it needs an event, right? So we've been thinking about it. So yeah, so Savannah would be really neat. And I would say, oh, we could just go back to the town, like to the area that inspired the book, but then I'd be too close to my parents, and I don't want to see that. So yeah, I think it would be fun to do in Georgia, and it would just be cool. I don't know. So thinking about that for the future, it probably wouldn't be when the book was coming out, like a launch event. It would probably be something after. And I know there were questions and stuff, and I said we were going to do questions, but I think it would be something we would do after the books were over, so that we could go and we could actually do Q&As about the series, so that there wouldn't be spoilers. It'd be like everyone's read it and now we're all getting together to do it. Savannah would be super fun. I feel like that would be such a cool place to do it. Like we could stay right on River Street, and oh my gosh, definitely would be cool. So when it comes to shadow demons, the thing that I am going to be doing as well. Now, we had talked about doing a book club reading together, like a read along for that book, for when the book was coming out. So when book 12 was coming out, just to reread it. But I'm going to do my own book reading right now. So as I'm finishing Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, I am starting back at book 1 of Shadow Demons, yet again, reading back through the whole thing for the millionth time, because I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything, that I am like 100% catching all the story threads, living back in the world again, and doing that sort of thing. So we won't be doing that as a group yet, but I will keep you guys updated of whether we will be doing something fun. This is so funny. And then we just go to Disney World, right? I mean, you know me, I would be up for that in a heartbeat. So we could do a spooktacular event in Savannah, and then we could go to Disney World for whoever wants to go. I love it. That would just be amazing. Kelly, I actually started a list of events for a Canon Con a while back. Vendors, Q&A, writing sprints. I'd be happy to discuss and be part of the planning event. Oh my gosh, that would be fun, Kelly. I did not know you did that. I feel like it's just all I have to do is start writing again, and everything's going to fall into place. And it feels so good to be thinking about my writing and smiling again. Timoana's here. So I've been wearing this dragonfly ring that she got for me a lot, because it's just this reminder, it's like, not only do I have these stories, that there are people who really do love them. Right. And also, it's so much fun to write. And when you get into the stories and you really get back into your world, and you can stop thinking about, is this going to sell? And, what's happening to my sales, and who's mad at me, and this other things. It's like, once you get back into the story itself, it's just all exciting. And it's hard, because the story doesn't always come together the way you want. And writing is hard work, but at the same time, it's so rewarding and so fun. Oh, and that's the other thing George told me today. He's like, the dragonflies are back. So he saw the first few dragonflies here. And I also, I don't know that she watches Coffee Chats, but my friend Rebecca, she did the Manifestation Babe Academy, and now we're going back through it together. She went through the whole thing. I only went through the first 4 modules and didn't make it through the rest of it. And oh no, Caden sent me a letter. Did it go into my mail? Did it go into my mailbox somewhat recently? Because I have not checked my mail, I think, in a month. So I will go and check it. I will go. Maybe we'll go this weekend. We'll go car shopping and go check my mail. Savannah HarperCon during Spooktacular, followed by Disney, and it'll be all decorated with spooky stuff. We'll do the stuff. But anyway, it's just that fun of just living in that world again and remembering how amazing it is and how much books can really transport us into another world. It can transport us into someone else's life or make us feel like we're living that adventure, you know, that we're going through what these characters are going through. And it's so powerful. And there's, you know, speaking of the books, there are things that I can't talk about publicly yet, but if you have ever wanted more from this series, and I think you know what I'm talking about, but I won't say it, there are things that are moving and doors that are opening. And so if you have just even a moment, maybe not during this new moon cycle, so maybe just wait, maybe wait a week or something like that. If you have just a moment to sit and imagine, like, what would Shadow Demons be like if it was, you know, in a TV show? Or what would it be like to go to a premiere of watching Harper on the screen, or to turn on my Netflix and there's, you know, Peachville and everything? If you've ever thought of that, just sit down and have a moment of just like bringing that into existence. Because I still believe that it can happen. And even if it's years out in the future, you just never know what might come to be. Yeah. So retrograde started today. But I can feel pretty confident, because with retrograde, it's all about like not starting something new. And this is something that, you know, all of these things that I'm talking about, none of it is new stuff. It's all stuff coming back from the past, you know, stuff that's coming full circle in a way. And in so many ways, even though it has taken me longer to write book 12 and to get back into book 12 than I expected, there are also so many signs now that tell me it was always meant to be this way. And for anybody that is, you know, disappointed, hopefully they'll come back around when the final book comes out and they'll say, wow, I'm so glad it ended the way it did. I'm so glad, you know, it was this timing. And I think there are so many things in our lives that can feel that way. It's like, oh, it's disappointing. I hate that I'm in this season. So if you're in a season of life right now where you're like, oh, I'm feeling really frustrated that I can't move faster, or that I can't do more writing, or I can't be creative in this way, or I wish I didn't have this job, or I didn't have this. Just know that sometimes, even though we can't see the way that it's all working out, sometimes it's just not the right time for something. And there's a better time waiting, divine timing. There's a better time in the future for this to happen. And I always try to remember that. But sometimes when you're in the thick of it and you feel like, oh, everybody's disappointed and I wish I could do this and I wish I could juggle all these things, sometimes we can be really hard on ourselves. And that alone is enough to suck the joy out of the process. But when we can settle down and get grounded and say, this is exactly where I was always meant to be, and trust that there are better things. Like my word for the year is faith. And if I can just have faith that this is all meant to be this way, and that it's all coming together the way it was always meant to, then I know that I can get through anything, knowing that better is on its way. And yeah, it's going to be cool. So yes, it is. This week has been like astrological event crazy. So we had the new moon solar eclipse this week, and that already was like, everybody was saying, don't try to manifest anything new. Don't try to like do a bunch of rituals. Instead, you should just be like observing and thinking back on the past, or like brings up the past and other things like that. And I was like, okay, I'm definitely feeling some of this energy. And then today starts Mercury retrograde, which I think it will be in retrograde for, does anybody know how long? It's like quite a bit of time, several weeks, I think. So we're in Mercury retrograde, and already some of the people, it's like, why did I plan a Mercury retrograde right during, like, why did I plan the virtual writing retreat right in the middle of this? Because we've already had some technical things and some other things. So it's till May 14th. So we have several weeks, 3 weeks of this. You want to come be in my live? Y'all don't judge me. My 3-year-old is still in her PJs. But if you get a chance to watch, you're not, she keeps saying she's not a 3-year-old, she's 3. Come here.
I'm a sister.
Oh, she's not a 3-year-old, she's a sister. You're a sister? What are you showing me? What are those? Do you know what those are called? Do you know what they are? They're called binoculars. Can you say that? Can you say binoculars? Binoculars. It's okay. Just leave that over there. Okay. We'll get it next. You want to say hi to everybody? Yeah. We'll look up and say hi. Hi. She makes a cameo in my video that will go up today. Her hair is growing so fast.
Your hair is growing so slow.
My hair is growing so slow, she says.
Yeah, because there's a fishing rod on you.
There's a fishing rod on me?
Yeah.
What?
It's on your ears.
Oh, it's on my ears. Okay. I love you. Well, I did not get to any questions. I'm sorry to say. I always do this. I'm like, I'm going to go live in 5 minutes and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about for an hour. And then there's always things to talk about because it's just like hanging out with friends. It's okay, babe. Just like hanging out with friends. So we just had a little coffee chat. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for helping me manifest dreams, live events, books getting finished, all of these things. I can feel your support and it means a lot to me.
Mommy,
and hopefully you feel my support too, not only here, but also, I don't have fish hook earrings, so I don't know why she thought that was what that is. I can't see through that. It goes this way. Upside down. Boom.
Andrew said it doesn't go upside down.
He did. Ooh, that looks crazy. So anyway, hopefully I will see you guys next week. But if not, just be aware we might cancel. Oh, here's our baseball star. Last night we had pouring down rain. The kids played in the rain.
No.
And Andrew won his 5th baseball game in a row. He's doing great. He's doing great. So lots of fun family things happening. We have a busy summer ahead, but we will do as many coffee chats as we can. I will let you guys know as soon as I can about next week. But if you want to come join me, even if you're not writing, you can still come join our live sprints that we're going on all weekend. And Tracy's has already started. So head over to the Revised Writer if you want to start writing, and she's already live. And I will see you guys either next week or the week after. I love you all. Thank you for being here, and I will see you soon. All right. Bye. You say bye.